The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the faint hum of the refugee shelter's old machines. Rows of metal beds stood in the dim light, most of them empty. But on one bed lay a girl who looked more like a shadow than a living being. Her skin was pale silver, her veins glowing faintly with a dull blue light. Her chest rose and fell weakly, each breath sounding like a battle she was losing. She was an alien child, no older than 20 years by human count. Her people had fled a war that destroyed their colony, and she was left behind sick, starving, and broken. The medics tried everything they could, but her body was failing fast. Her organs were shutting down, and there was no cure. The doctors whispered she had only a few days left. In the corner of the shelter stood Daniel, a young human medic who had seen many tragedies. He had patched up soldiers, rescued orphans, and watched countless lives slip away in his arms. But something about this girl was different. When he looked into her eyes, even in their weakness, he saw a spark, a plea for life, a silent cry that screamed louder than words. The other refugees walked past her bed without stopping. Some muttered that she was beyond saving, that her kind had no hope. Others feared catching her illness. Many simply did not care. In their eyes, she was already gone. But Daniel could not look away. He stepped closer, checking the machines beside her. The numbers were low, too low. Her kidney function was nearly gone. Without a replacement, her body would collapse. Daniel's heart tightened in his chest. He knew what it meant. He had seen this before. The only chance for survival was a transplant, but no one had volunteered. Why would anyone risk it? One alien elder had told him, "She is not important, not useful. She is already lost. Save your strength for others." But Daniel did not think like them. He could not see her as useless. To him, every life mattered. He saw her trembling fingers gripping the blanket, fighting for every breath, and he felt his chest burn. That night, as the cold wind blew through the cracks of the shelter, Daniel stayed by her side. He listened to her shallow breaths. He watched her lips move as if she was whispering something in her sleep. At first he thought it was nonsense, then he leaned closer and heard the faintest word escape her mouth: "Help." The sound struck him like a knife. It was weak, broken, almost too quiet to hear, but it was real. She was begging. Not to the doctors, not to her own people, but to anyone who would listen, and Daniel had heard her. He sat there for hours, unable to leave. His mind kept repeating the same thought. If no one helps her, she will die. The next morning, the head doctor confirmed his fears. Her body will not last another week unless she gets a new kidney. "She is gone." Daniel's chest tightened. His own voice trembled as he asked, "Is there no donor?" The doctor shook his head. "No one is willing. Her kind is not seen as worth the risk. Even if someone offered, the surgery is dangerous. Her body might reject it. The donor might not survive either." Danger, rejection, death. The words swirled in Daniel's mind. Yet when he turned back to the girl, lying helpless and silent, he felt something rise inside him, a stubborn fire. He could not walk away. He could not let her fade into the cold darkness of this shelter. He knew what it would mean. He knew the risk, but his heart whispered one thing: she deserves a chance. As the day ended, Daniel made his choice. He walked to the medical ward, his voice steady though his hands trembled. "Test me," he said. "See if my kidney matches hers." The doctors stared at him in shock. The other refugees murmured. Some laughed. Some called him foolish. Others whispered in fear. Why would a human give part of himself for her? "She is not one of us," but Daniel did not listen. He had already decided. The tests began. Every moment felt endless. His heart pounded as the machines compared his blood to hers. At last, the screen flickered with results. The match was close, not perfect, but enough to work. Daniel felt his chest tighten with both relief and fear. He knew what came next. The surgery would be dangerous. He might lose his own life. Yet when he thought of the alien girl's fragile breaths, of her whispered plea for help, he felt no doubt. That night, he stood by her bed one more time. Her weak eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly in the dim light. For the first time their gazes met. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Daniel gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Don't worry," he whispered softly. "You're not alone anymore." And with that, the stage was set. A human had chosen to give away a piece of his life to save hers, a choice that would shock the colony, a choice that would change both their fates forever. The girl was dying, but hope had just been born. The shelter grew tense the moment Daniel's decision spread. People whispered in shock. Some thought he was brave. Others thought he was insane. The air was heavy with doubt and fear. No one could believe that a human would risk his own life for an alien girl who was already half gone. The doctors called him into a private room. The walls were lined with flickering screens and old medical equipment. The head doctor leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. "You understand what this means? You could die. The surgery is long, the blood loss could be heavy. Even if you live, recovery will be painful, and remember, her body may reject your kidney. She might die anyway." Daniel sat silently. His hands were steady, but inside a storm raged. He thought of the girl lying in that bed, fighting for every breath. He thought of the way her lips had whispered help. So fragile and broken he could not erase it from his mind. "I understand the risk," Daniel said at last. His voice calm but firm. "But I won't turn away. If I can give her even a chance, that's enough." The doctor frowned. His eyes carried both respect and disbelief. "Humans, you never stop surprising me," he muttered. When Daniel left the room, a small crowd had gathered outside. Refugees, nurses, even a few alien elders. Their eyes followed him, some full of curiosity, some of anger, and some of admiration. A tall alien man stepped forward, his face marked with scars from past battles. "You are a fool, human," the man growled. "Why waste your blood on her? She is not one of you, she is weak, she is nothing." Daniel's gaze hardened. He did not raise his voice. He only said, "She is someone, she is alive." "That's enough for me." The crowd fell silent. For a moment no one spoke. The alien man sneered and walked away. But others stayed. Some whispered to each other, confused and shaken. For the first time they saw something they could not understand. A human giving without expecting anything in return. That evening the preparations began. The machines hummed as the medical team checked Daniel's blood again and again. He lay on a narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. His chest rose and fell slowly. His mind drifted to his past. He remembered the faces of those he had lost in war, the children he could not save, the families torn apart. Maybe this is my chance to do what I couldn't before, he thought. Maybe this is how I make it right. Meanwhile, the alien girl lay in another ward, her body fragile, her breath shallow. The nurses whispered around her. "She won't make it," some said. "Even if the surgery works, she won't last long." But in the stillness of the night, her faint eyes opened for the first time. She saw movement beyond her bed through the glass window. She saw Daniel lying on another bed, nurses attaching wires to him. She did not understand what was happening, but her heart stirred. Her lips parted, and though no sound came, her eyes filled with tears. The surgery day arrived. The room was cold, the lights harsh and white. Daniel was strapped to the table, his arm hooked to needles. His heartbeat echoed on the monitor. Steady but fast, the doctors moved around him, voices low but urgent. The head surgeon leaned close. "This is your last chance to walk away." Daniel shook his head. "Do it." As the machines powered on, the crowd gathered outside the viewing window. They came not out of support, but out of disbelief. They wanted to see if the human was truly mad enough to give himself away for an alien. The operation began. Hours passed slowly. The surgeons worked carefully, sweat on their brows. They removed Daniel's kidney with precision. His body trembled, his blood pressure dropped. His skin turned pale. The room filled with tense silence. At the same time, another team worked on the alien girl, her frail chest rising weakly under the mask. They prepared her body to receive the gift. Her veins glowed faint blue, flickering like fading stars. When Daniel's kidney was finally placed inside her, the room held its breath. The machines beeped. The monitors flashed red. For a long moment nothing happened. Then, her chest rose a little stronger. The faint blue glow in her veins steadied. The monitor beeped with a fragile but growing rhythm. The doctors looked at each other in disbelief. "It's working," one whispered. But Daniel could not hear them. His consciousness faded. Darkness closed in around him. His last thought before slipping under was of her face. The girl who had whispered for help, at least. She has a chance. The surgery ended with uncertainty. The alien girl was alive, her body beginning to accept the gift. But Daniel lay motionless, his life hanging by a thread. Outside the room, whispers spread like fire. Some aliens shook their heads, calling it madness. Others felt something they had never felt before, shame, and a few quietly felt awe. For the first time in the colony, They had seen a human risk everything, not for glory, not for gain, but for the life of another. The risk had been taken and the price was high. The girl lived, but the human's fate remained unknown. The shelter was quiet in the days after the surgery. The machines hummed softly, carrying the fragile rhythm of two lives tied together by one choice. Daniel remained unconscious, his body weak after giving away a part of himself. Beside him, the alien girl lay in a separate bed, her breaths deeper than before, her chest rising with a strength no one expected. At first, the doctors thought she would not last. They feared her body would reject the human kidney. They stayed awake through the nights, checking the monitors, but slowly, the numbers climbed, her blood pressure steadied. Her weak glow returned. The dull blue veins that once flickered like dying stars now shone with life again. On the third morning, her eyes opened. They were large and silver, shimmering faintly in the light. She blinked at the ceiling, confused. Her body felt strange, heavy yet alive. She touched her side, feeling the bandages wrapped tight. Her heart raced as memories rushed back. Darkness, pain, the cold whisper of death and her own voice begging for help. She tried to sit up, but her body was still too weak. A nurse rushed to her side, holding her gently. "Easy. Don't strain yourself," the nurse whispered. The girl looked around, her lips dry, her voice soft. Where is he?" The nurse frowned. "Who?" "The human," she whispered, her throat tight. "The one who stayed near me." The nurse hesitated, then pointed through the glass divider. On the other side, Daniel lay still, pale as snow, wires covering his chest. His body looked fragile, almost broken. The girl's eyes filled with tears. For a long moment, she could not speak. She had never seen a human before she came to the colony. Her people often called them reckless, dangerous, too quick to act. But here lay one who had given away his life so she could breathe. The doctors came in, checking her heartbeat, her blood flow, her kidney function. "You are healing," one said. "The transplant is working." She barely heard him. Her gaze never left Daniel. In the days that followed, she grew stronger. She could sip water, eat soft food, even whisper short sentences. Every moment felt like a gift. Yet guilt pressed heavily on her chest. She lived, but he might not. His sacrifice was not just kindness, it was a bond of blood. One evening, when the shelter lights dimmed and most were asleep, she gathered her strength and slowly walked, holding onto the walls step by step, until she reached the glass divider, her hands pressed against it. Her silver eyes locked on the human lying motionless inside. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Why? Why would you do this for me?" She did not expect an answer, but then the monitor beside Daniel beeped louder. His chest rose slightly deeper. His eyelids trembled slowly, painfully. His eyes opened. The girl froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Daniel's gaze was weak, his vision blurry, but he saw a figure standing there. Glowing faintly, he blinked, and recognition came. It was her, alive, breathing, looking at him with tears shining on her cheeks. "You survived," Daniel whispered, his voice broken but filled with relief. The girl pressed her hand harder to the glass, shaking her head. "No, I did not survive. You gave me life." Daniel gave the faintest smile. "Then it was worth it." His voice was so soft that only she could hear. Tears rolled down her face. For the first time in her life, she felt something deeper than survival. It was not only gratitude, it was connection. The bond was invisible but stronger than steel. He had given her a part of himself, and in return her heart belonged to him. From that day she visited him every morning. She sat by the glass, speaking softly even when he was too weak to answer. She told him about her home before the war, about the stars her people once lived under, about the songs her mother sang when she was a child. Daniel listened, sometimes with his eyes closed, sometimes smiling faintly. For him, every word was proof that his choice had meaning. He had not only saved a life, he had saved a story, a piece of a world that might have been lost forever. As days turned to weeks, he grew stronger. He could sit up, take sips of water, and even laugh weakly at her stories. The girl, too, grew brighter. Her silver glow returned, her voice steadied. She began to hum the songs she once thought she would never sing again. The shelter staff watched in silence. Some still shook their heads, calling it madness, but others began to wonder. Was this bond proof of something greater? Was humanity's gift not weakness, but strength that no other race could match? One evening, as the sun set behind the cracked windows, the girl sat beside Daniel's bed at last. The doctors had allowed her to enter. She reached for his hand, her touch trembling. "You gave me your kidney," she whispered, her eyes wet. "But you gave me more than life. You gave me hope." Daniel squeezed her fingers weakly. "And you gave me a reason to keep living." For a long time, they sat in silence, two souls bound not by bloodlines or species, but by sacrifice and gratitude. The alien girl had awakened to life again, but more than that, she had awakened to a bond she never imagined. The bond between her heart and the human who saved it. Word of the surgery spread beyond the shelter. Whispers traveled through the colony streets like wind carrying sparks. Some aliens shook their heads in disbelief, saying the human was reckless. Others argued he was noble, a symbol of something greater. But most were simply afraid. They had lived through war, betrayal, and starvation. In their hearts, trust was fragile. They looked at the alien girl, alive because of a human's sacrifice, and they felt confused. What did it mean for their place in this galaxy? What did it mean about the humans who lived among them? Daniel, though still weak, began to recover. Each day he walked a little more, his steps slow but determined. The girl, too, grew stronger. Her glow returned, her voice steadier. She often stayed near him, never letting him feel alone. To her, he was not only her savior, he was her reason to live. But outside, debates raged. In the council hall of the colony, alien leaders gathered. Their voices clashed like thunder. "This is dangerous," one elder hissed. "If humans believe their lives can be thrown away for ours, what will stop them from demanding loyalty? What if this is a trap?" Another elder shook her head. No, it was choice the human gave freely. He asked for nothing. Perhaps we must learn from this. The hall erupted in arguments. Some called Daniel a fool. Some called him a hero, but none could agree. Fear wrapped around every word. Meanwhile, in the crowded markets, ordinary people whispered. Some mothers pulled their children away when Daniel passed, warning them not to trust his kind. Others bowed their heads quietly, ashamed of their own coldness. A few young aliens followed him with wide eyes, wondering how someone could be so brave. The alien girl felt the weight of it all. She heard the whispers when she walked beside him. "That is the one he saved," they said. "She carries a human's peace inside her now. She is no longer only one of us." The words cut her deeply. She pressed her hands to her chest at night, feeling the beat of her heart, wondering if she truly belonged anywhere. Daniel noticed one evening, as they sat near the window watching the pale stars, he asked softly, "What's wrong?" She shook her head, but tears filled her eyes. "They say I am not one of them anymore. They say I am less. Because of you." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady though weak. "You are not less. You are more. You carry life. You carry hope. Don't let their fear steal that from you." She looked at him with trembling eyes. His words wrapped around her heart like warmth against winter. But the conflict outside only grew louder one night. A group of angry aliens approached the shelter, their faces twisted with rage. They shouted that the girl should not live, that Daniel had broken the balance. The nurses locked the doors, holding them back. Daniel struggled to rise from his bed when he heard the noise. His body still weak, but his spirit burning. He stood between the crowd and the girl, his hand gripping the wall for balance. "Leave her," he said, his voice sharp. "She has done nothing wrong if you want to hate someone." "Hate me?" The crowd fell silent, shocked at his defiance. Some sneered, some turned away. A few, however, stared at him with something new in their eyes, not anger, but doubt in their own cruelty. The girl stepped forward, placing her hand on Daniel's arm. Her silver glow shimmered in the dim light. She raised her voice, trembling but strong. "You call him reckless, you call him a fool. But he is the reason I stand here. He gave me life when no one else would. And I will not let you call that wrong." Her words carried into the night. The crowd shifted uneasily. They had expected weakness, but instead they found courage. Slowly, one by one, they dispersed, leaving only silence behind inside the shelter. Daniel collapsed into a chair, his body trembling from the effort. The girl knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "Why do you always stand in front of me?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Because life is worth protecting, yours especially." Her heart ached with a warmth she had never known. She realized then that what bound them was not only the kidney inside her, but the strength he gave her every time he stood for her. Outside, the colony remained divided. Fear clashed with admiration, suspicion with respect. Some still hated, some still doubted. But others began to wonder if perhaps humanity's compassion was not weakness, but the galaxy's most powerful gift. The girl held Daniel's hand as the night stretched on. In the silence, she whispered, "They may fear us, they may doubt us, but I will never leave your side." Daniel squeezed her fingers weakly. His eyes closed, but his heart steady. "Then we face them together," he said. And in that moment, despite the world's division, a new strength grew between them. Stronger than any fear, the days turned into weeks. The shelter that once echoed with whispers of fear now carried softer tones. Some still doubted, some still mocked. But the noise mattered less to the girl. Her focus was on Daniel, the human who gave away a part of himself so she could live. Daniel's recovery was slow. His steps were shaky, his body often weak. But his spirit never dimmed. He tried to smile even when pain tightened his chest. The doctors told him to rest, but he always insisted on walking, on moving forward, and each time he struggled, the alien girl was there, steadying him with her hands. She repaid his sacrifice not with grand words, but with actions. She brought him food, even if it was only warm broth from the kitchen. She adjusted his blankets at night, whispering quiet songs from her world until he fell asleep. When he trembled with pain, she held his hand until the storm passed. One evening, Daniel tried to stand without her help. He took 2 steps and collapsed against the wall. Before the nurses could rush forward, the girl was already there, holding him up with surprising strength. "Why push yourself?" she scolded softly. "Your body needs time. Do not fight it alone." Daniel chuckled weakly. "Old habit. I've spent my life running into battles I couldn't win." She shook her head, her silver eyes glowing. "Not anymore. Not while I am here." From that night on, she made it her mission. He would never fight alone. She carried his burdens as if they were her own. She sat with him through endless therapy sessions. She walked beside him when he learned to move again. Every moment she gave back the life he had given her. But something deeper stirred inside her heart. It was no longer only gratitude. When she looked at him, she saw more than her savior. She saw someone who believed in her when no one else did. Someone who stood against the crowd just to protect her. And she realized she did not want to live only because of him. She wanted to live with him. One quiet afternoon, Daniel sat by the window. The sunlight painting his face, the girl entered carrying a bowl of soup. Her steps were careful, her smile gentle. "You don't have to keep doing this," Daniel said softly. "You've already repaid me, you're alive." "That's enough," she set the bowl down firmly, shaking her head. "No, it is not enough. My life is not payment, my care for you is not duty. It is choice." Daniel looked at her, confused but moved. "Why choose me?" She hesitated, her voice trembling. "Because you gave me more than breath. You gave me worth when the others said I was nothing. You saw me as someone I cannot forget that." Her words struck him deeply. He had always believed every life mattered, but hearing her speak, he realized his sacrifice had become something far more personal. That night, she stayed longer than usual. The stars shone beyond the cracked windows. Daniel drifted in and out of sleep, and the girl sat beside him, watching. Her hand brushed his hair from his forehead, a gesture so tender it surprised even her. "You saved me," she whispered to the quiet room. "But you also saved yourself. Because now you are not alone, I am here. I will always be here." The following days proved her promise true. When Daniel struggled to eat, she fed him with patience. When he tried to walk, she matched his steps. When the pain grew unbearable, she sang her mother's songs to soothe him. Slowly, the others in the shelter began to notice. Nurses exchanged glances, some smiling softly. Even the elders who once sneered grew silent. They saw not only a human sacrifice, but the bond it had created, something stronger than medicine, stronger than fear, yet with each act of kindness, the girl's feelings deepened. Gratitude transformed into affection, and affection into love. She no longer thought of Daniel as the man who saved her. She thought of him as the man who belonged to her heart. Still, fear lingered. Would he ever see her the same way? Would he ever accept the love of someone not human? She carried this question quietly, letting her care speak louder than words. One evening, when Daniel managed to take 10 steps across the ward, the entire room clapped, the girl's eyes filled with pride and tears. She ran to his side, holding him tightly as he laughed weakly. "You see," he said, catching his breath. "We're both stronger now," she smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "Yes, but only because we walk together." Her heart raced at the closeness, her cheeks warming. In that moment, she realized there would come a day when she could not hide her feelings anymore. She would have to tell him, not because she owed him, but because she loved him. For now she showed her heart through every small act. Every warm meal, every whispered song, every steady hand, Daniel gave her life. And she was giving him her heart in return. The bond between them was no longer about survival. It was about something far deeper, something eternal. The colony did not rest easy. Even as Daniel and the alien girl healed, the voices outside grew sharper. Some whispered behind closed doors. Others shouted in the open streets. To them, the bond between a human and an alien was unnatural, a danger to order. Rumors spread quickly. They said the girl was no longer pure, that she carried a piece of human inside her. They said Daniel was reckless, a man who wasted his life on something worthless. Each word carried like poison, and though the girl tried to ignore them, they weighed heavy on her heart. One morning, when Daniel was finally strong enough to walk outside, they left the shelter together. The sun rose over the broken rooftops, painting the colony in soft gold. Daniel leaned on a wooden cane. His steps careful, the girl walked beside him, her silver glow faint but warm. At first, people only stared. Some children pointed, asking questions their parents silenced quickly. Then the voices began. Look at them, one muttered. A human giving himself to one of them. She is cursed, another spat. She carries his blood, she should not be among us. Daniel's jaw tightened. But he stayed silent. His hand rested lightly on the girl's arm, steadying her more than himself. The girl kept her head down, her chest heavy. But when the crowd grew louder, when one man stepped forward and shouted, "Go back! You do not belong here," something inside her broke. She lifted her head, her silver eyes blazing. Her voice rang clear, trembling but strong. Enough! The crowd fell silent. Shocked by her defiance, she stepped forward. Her hands clenched at her side. You call me cursed, you call him foolish. But where were you when I was dying? Where were you when my body failed? You turned away. You said I was not worth saving, and yet he, a stranger, gave me life. Her words struck like fire. Daniel watched, pride burning in his chest. The man sneered. He was reckless. He risked himself for nothing. Humans always act without thought. Daniel finally spoke, his voice steady. Reckless, maybe, but I would rather be reckless with kindness than safe with cruelty. The silence that followed was heavy. Some lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others scowled and turned away, but a few nodded quietly. The seeds of doubt planted in their hearts. From that day, the girl refused to hide. She walked with Daniel openly. She held his arm when he trembled. She spoke when others mocked. Her courage grew with every insult. She would not let his sacrifice be dishonored. One evening in the council hall, the debate turned into anger. Leaders demanded that Daniel leave the colony, saying his presence divided the people. The girl stood beside him, facing the council. Her voice rang like steel. If you send him away, you send away the best of what this world could be. You speak of fear, but I speak of life. He gave me his blood, his body, his strength. Tell me, what have you given? What right do you have to call him wrong? The counselors shifted uncomfortably, some shouted back. But her words carried through the room. Stronger than arguments, stronger than prejudice. Daniel reached for her hand, whispering, You don't have to fight for me. She squeezed his fingers, her silver glow bright. I am not fighting for you. I am fighting for us. Her defiance began to change things. Slowly, small groups of aliens came to the shelter to see Daniel. Some brought food, others offered quiet apologies. A few even asked him questions, curious about the humans who could give so much, but not everyone softened. Dark voices still stirred in the shadows, plotting, whispering of removing them both to restore order. The danger had not ended, it had only shifted. One night, as Daniel rested, the girl sat by his side, her voice low but steady. They may never understand us, but I will stand against them again and again. I will not let their fear destroy what you gave me. Daniel opened his eyes, weak but smiling. You don't owe me this fight. Her heart swelled, tears shimmering. I do not fight because I owe you. I fight because I love you. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Her breath caught, her cheeks warmed. But Daniel only looked at her, silent, his eyes soft, his hand tightening around hers for the first time. She did not feel shame, she felt free. Her voice had cut through the cold, her heart had spoken. And though the colony remained divided, She knew she had chosen her side by Daniel's side forever. The nights grew quieter in the shelter. The storms of shouting voices outside began to fade, not because they disappeared, but because something stronger had taken root. Hope Daniel's body healed slowly. His steps grew surer, his laughter warmer. He no longer leaned fully on the cane, but still kept it nearby. The girl stayed by his side through it all, her silver glow brighter than before. Each day she helped him, not out of duty, but out of love. The colony watched them with mixed eyes. Some still muttered curses. Some still whispered that their bond was unnatural. But others began to soften. They brought small gifts, food, medicine, even blankets for the shelter. And each gift carried unspoken words. Maybe we were wrong, one evening. The girl led Daniel to the edge of the colony. Beyond the ruins stood an old tower. Cracked by war but still reaching toward the stars, they climbed it slowly together, step by step, until they reached the top. The night sky stretched above them, endless and full of scattered lights. The stars shimmered like 1,000 silent witnesses. The girl turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the heavens. "You gave me your kidney," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "But you gave me more than life, you gave me a future. You gave me a reason to believe in something greater, and now, I give you my heart." Daniel stared at her. His chest tight, he had expected gratitude. But her words were not born from debt. They were born from love, real and unshaken. He reached out, his hand brushing against hers. "You don't need to repay me," he said softly. "I never asked for anything." The girl shook her head, her silver glow bright against the night. "This is not repayment, this is choice. Just as you chose to save me, I choose to stand with you, to give you everything I am." Silence hung between them, broken only by the wind. Then Daniel smiled, a smile warmer than the starlight above. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Then let's live together," he whispered. From that night, they were no longer two broken souls clinging to survival. They were something new, a bond stronger than fear, stronger than blood. Their love became a story whispered across the colony. Some still doubted, but others found courage in it. Some parents told their children, "Look, that is what it means to be human." The girl carried her new strength proudly. She no longer walked with her head lowered. She held Daniel's hand openly. She defended him against harsh words without trembling, and slowly people began to see. Humanity's kindness was not weakness, it was power. One day, the council called them again. The chamber was full, leaders staring with cold eyes. But before they could speak, the girl stepped forward, her voice clear. "You feared us, you mocked us, but look at me. I live because of him, I walk because of him, and I will spend my life beside him. If that makes me less in your eyes, then so be it, because to me, I have everything." Her words silenced the hall. Daniel stood beside her, not with anger, but with quiet strength. His presence itself was proof of his sacrifice. The council could not argue. They dismissed them without judgment, and yet something changed. The people who once whispered against them now began to whisper in awe. Weeks later, a young alien boy came to Daniel, his small hands trembling. "Sir," he said shyly, "my sister is sick, will you help her too?" Daniel knelt down, placing a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. His heart swelled, not because he was asked for help, but because he saw trust in the boy's eyes. "Of course," Daniel said, "I will do all I can." The girl watched, her heart overflowing with pride. She saw the future shaping itself, not through fear but through compassion, and she knew their story had already planted seeds that would grow long after they were gone. That night, as they lay beneath the stars once more, the girl whispered, "They will remember you. They will tell stories of your kindness, of your sacrifice. You gave them a gift beyond life." Daniel shook his head gently. "No, we gave it. You stood beside me. You made them see without you. I would have been only a reckless man with you. We became hope." Her eyes filled with tears, she pressed her forehead to his chest, listening to the steady beat that kept them both alive. "Then let us be hope together." And so, the human who gave away his kidney and the alien girl who gave him her heart stood as proof that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, kindness could build bridges stronger than any wall. Love could outshine fear, and sacrifice could create a future. Their story was not about loss, but about the gift beyond life, the gift of a bond no power could break.